I met my ex-fiance, Amy, when we were both 27. Right off the bat, we hit it off. Pretty early in our relationship, Amy let me know that she had a pretty wild past. She wanted to be honest and upfront with me. I told her I didn't care, but I had concerns about whether she wanted to settle down, which I kept to myself. She had told me how her past caused a lot of strain with her parents, but didn't really go into detail. I pushed all that aside and dove in. We had a fantastic relationship. Over the years, I grew close to her parents. I spent much time at their house helping her dad with projects. We'd often all three go out to lunch after. They're wonderful people. After dating for about 3 years, I proposed. Amy was ecstatic, but her parents were even more excited. We had what seemed like a fairy tale engagement. Allie was Amy's coworker and they became really close. Amy's friend Sarah invited her on a weekend trip to Vegas one weekend. Now, Sarah wasn't someone I liked. She was a friend from that time in Amy's life who was a bad influence. She would pressure her to drink, do sugar, hook up, etc. I heard her calling me boring multiple times on the phone with Amy and even told her she should break up with me a couple of times. Kidding, of course. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but Sarah invited Amy's friend Allie, which made me feel much better. Allie was Amy's coworker and we all became really good friends over the years. Allie was one of the kindest and most sincere people that I've ever met. They went to a club one night and some guys were all over them. They invited the girls to their suite or penthouse upstairs where they were throwing an after party. Amy and Allie declined, but Sarah guilt-tripped them into going. During the party, Allie was alone and wanted to return to their room and sleep. She went looking for Sarah and Amy to see if they wanted to leave or let them know that she was leaving. She found them in a room. Sarah was hooking up with one guy and Amy was having it with 2 guys. The next morning, Amy begged Allie not to say anything to me, and Sarah said it was all her fault. When they got back, Allie told me everything right away. To her credit, Amy did not deny any of it. She said she freaked out about getting married and messed up. I was crushed, but obviously, she called off the wedding and broke up on the spot. I hadn't told many people about what happened except my immediate family. This all happened 6 months ago. I saw Amy's parents at a hardware store a week ago. They expressed how sad they were that we broke up. Her mom, who I was close with, asked me what happened. She didn't think I was the cold feet type and could cut Amy out of my life. I was so confused, but then awkwardly clarified that when she was partying with Sarah, who they all knew about, she decided to cheat on me with 2 guys at the same time. They were sad, but not surprised. They had hoped she was turning a new leaf. About 2 days later, I got a slew of texts from Amy. She was angry that I had told them and saw it as a way for me to get back at her by turning her parents against her. She said she gave me everything I wanted in the breakup and apologized a million times. It was true. She moved out immediately, worked out canceling wedding plans, etc. It was a clean break, no drama. That said, her parents were super angry about throwing away our relationship. They told her sister, who Amy always competed with and hated, for shaming her constantly. Her parents are well off and gave her sister and my brother-in-law a huge amount of money to start their lives. They promised the same thing for Amy, but they told her they would just donate it since they didn't want to finance her lifestyle. I knew it might happen, but didn't really care. I would have been fine keeping it to myself until I found out she told them that I basically got cold feet and abandoned her. Amy said she always thought I was kind, but it turns out I was a vindictive idiot. Am I the idiot for telling my ex-fiance's parents exactly why we broke up and I called off the wedding? Edit. I told her parents about it when they asked me months later. I knew it would cause a crap storm for her, and they might cut her off financially, but I wouldn't let her blame me for the breakup. Not the idiot. Cheating has consequences, and she's experiencing hers. Why would you be the bad guy here? Her parents asked you what happened. You didn't lie. You told them the actual reason. Were you supposed to lie to cover up for the cheater? To have them believe you abandoned her? Are you kidding me? Nothing vindictive about what you did. She's just angry that her money is going away. She played a stupid game and won the prize of losing her future. Right? Amy threw OP under the bus. OP cleared his name by telling them exactly what happened. And she's mad? Funny. Her parents already knew she was lying. When they saw you, they took the opportunity to find out what really happened. She was engaged and decided to get banged by two guys at the same time. Her behavior is never going to change without some serious consequences. Telling people what she did is the consequence she needs. Also, Sarah is dragging her life down. If she doesn't cut her off, she will always be like Sarah, alone. Credit to Allie for being your ally here. You should marry Allie instead. I absolutely would if she weren't already married. That's one of the reasons she felt she needed to tell me. If one of her husband's friends covered for him like that, she would have been so hurt. She's a great friend, and I'll be eternally grateful. I wasn't really super angry about it until I heard X was telling her parents and more people that I got cold feet and left. Just thankful this happened before the wedding and not after. I started going to therapy soon after, so that helped keep me sane. My youngest daughter recently had a birthday, tween. It was a rare occasion when all of the grandchildren were together. My older sister was visiting from another state for the weekend with her college-age daughter, and we came to an agreement with my late brother's ex-wife so that his children were with us for a few hours. That's all to say, there were many moving parts to getting this entire family together. There have also been several deaths in the family last year. I wanted to get a picture with my mother and the grandchildren while we have the opportunity, since it might never happen that we're all gathered at the same time like this again. However, when I went to get the photo and I called for all the grandkids to sit with Grandma, the niece of my older brother's partner went to sit with my mother as well. I tried to be very gentle and told her, "Not you, sweetie, just the grandchildren." Poor thing doesn't have much going on in her little head, and she just stood there like a deer in the headlights until I beckoned for her to come stand near me instead, before letting the children back outside to play. The next thing I knew, my brother was asking me what happened because she was crying to him about it, and he was furious with me over this. Instead of trying to understand my reasoning, that I don't want some random child in what might be the last photo of Mom and the kids, they decided to leave. He childishly hasn't spoken to me in a week, and I'm not wrong to think he's overreacting and being unreasonable about this. Edit. The comment about the girl was my polite way of trying to explain that she's mentally special needs and nonverbal, from what I know. The mother, the sister of my brother's partner, was on a lot of sugar while pregnant and often left her alone on the floor with food and a dog bowl as a baby. Now the girl is like this, and this is why she's in custody of my brother's partner. My mother is not the most lucid, and she doesn't know who this little girl is. The most they do together is sit silently when the other children are playing, since this little girl is timid and often won't go out to play. Instead, she glues herself to my mother, who won't move away from her. They have tea parties in silence, and the girl makes Play-Doh food for my mother, who pretends to eat it. As far as I know, based on how the girl looks, I believe my mother thinks her to be the daughter of a woman who used to work for the family when my mother was young, and they would be watched together. You are the idiot. Why couldn't you have taken a couple of pictures with the little girl and the grandchildren, and then a couple without the little girl? What the heck is wrong with you? The partner also has custody of the niece, so it's possible she is or will be considered a grandchild by adoption. Yes, I completely agree. I would have taken several pictures too in that situation. OP only sees them as kin if they share a certain extremely small percentage of DNA. What an awful thing to do to a child that is, for all intents and purposes, a grandchild. OP needs to grovel even to be allowed to give an apology. That's her mom's grandkid that she loves. Oh, and you are the idiot, just for the "poor thing doesn't have much going on in her little head" comment. Wow, who the heck says that about a kid? I'm willing to lay good money that your brother is heavily involved in raising this niece and sees her as his kid, which makes it all the more despicable what you did. What a disgusting thing to say. You sound like you were one of those mean girls in high school. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years now. He had this childhood friend that he was extremely close with. They were attached at the hip, vacationed together, and had holidays together. When I met them, I originally thought they were together, but he assured me that they were incompatible. So no, they're just friends. So we started dating, but he kept prioritizing her over me. He would tell her everything, text her every day, and keep mentioning her. I told him it made me feel lesser and insecure. I didn't like how close he was to her. After some arguing and pleading, he agreed that he was putting me second. He said he'd talk to her and tell her he wanted to focus on us. After that, their interaction stopped. A week ago, one of their friends texted him to let him know that she had uterine cancer and died a few hours ago. My boyfriend became a completely different person after that. He became manic. He ran to meet with their friends and demanded to know who was handling her funeral, an apartment, and possessions. She had no family left, so they were thinking of splitting the responsibility. He strong-armed them into letting him help. They relented, and the next thing I knew, he was spending every day in her apartment. He took time off work and just spent hours in there. I got worried, so I asked his friend for her address, and I went to check on him. I thought he was packing her stuff, throwing things out and cleaning, but he wasn't. Instead, he was going through her things, reading her journals. Apparently, she's been journaling since she was small. He even began trashing her apartment to find her laptop's password. He claimed she had trouble remembering stuff like that, so she would write them down and stash them around the apartment in little hiding places, and he knows that password is around somewhere. I had it when he started asking me if I could call Best Buy and see if their Geek Squad would unlock the laptop for him. I started begging him to stop, to just take a moment, to stop. I tried telling him how crazy he was acting. He blew up on me. He started yelling at me, screaming about how all this was my fault. None of this would have happened if I let them keep hanging out. How he read her journals and how he knows the reason why she stopped talking to him was because he told her I was feeling insecure, and how she tried reaching out when she got diagnosed and called to see if he wanted to do dinner. He cornered me, asking if I remembered throwing a witch fit at her invitation and begged him not to go. So he declined by telling her I wasn't comfortable with them hanging out anymore. And then she just disappeared after that. Apparently she took that to mean no contact ever and just kept her cancer diagnosis hidden from him. She even asked their friends not to tell him, and they respected her wishes. And because he was respecting my selfish wishes, he wasn't there for her, and she died alone. The next thing I knew, he was throwing me out of her apartment, telling me never to go there again. He doesn't want me in her space. He needs time and won't be going home for a while. I'm so confused and hurt. I don't know what to do. Was this really my fault? Edit. Our relationship is not over. My boyfriend only asked me for time, and he's never mentioned breaking up. We're together in every sense of the word. We live together. Both our names are on the lease. We pay bills together. We have a life together. We are not breaking up. I'm so confused and hurt. Gonna go out on a limb and say probably not as confused and hurt as the friend dealing with cancer and dying without the support of her best friend. Do you think? You are the idiot. Regarding your edit, even though you may think you're not going to break up simply because you don't want to, and for a string of legal reasons, your boyfriend may very well want to after his break. I sincerely hope you would respect his decision if he were to tell you he wants to break up. Married people with kids and mortgages break up, but OP thinks a lease and some bills will hold them together? This is honestly a baffling level of delusion. Come on, girl, this is real life. There are consequences to real life choices. To be honest, I think you're both at fault because he shouldn't have listened to you. But since you're the OP here, yes, you are the idiot. Regardless of whether he listened, why even cut off their relationship to such an extent? They had been friends for years before, and it doesn't sound like she had a problem with you or was doing anything to you. Ask yourself why you were so insecure that the only option for you was for him to effectively cut her off. It doesn't sound like he was prioritizing her over you, more like you thought that any mention of her or any importance given to her was prioritizing her because only you should be given any importance. Our preteen son is going to his first sleepaway camp next month. Since my ex and I make the same income, we do not give or get child support, but rather pay for different expenses. For example, I pay for his sitter, and she pays for his extracurricular activities like camp. Sleepaway camp was so expensive that they don't even list the amount online. His camp and sports cost more than his sitter, so I agreed to reimburse her whatever the difference is between that and childcare. So far, it's $150. So I said I'd give it to her today when we see each other at our son's swim lesson. I was on my way home after a short business trip. Obviously, my son was at his mom's. I got a call from the sitter. He said my son's mom came home and was wasted. She was passed out on the couch. Our sitter said he didn't feel okay leaving our son with her. Our son hadn't had dinner and Friday's bath night, where I scrub him clean. I said I couldn't do anything as I was about to fly back home and asked if he could stay and watch my son. He said he couldn't. His place is a commute. Then I asked if he would be open to taking my son to his place, getting him fed, giving him a bath, and putting him to bed. I'll personally pick my son up and take him to my house. I have him for these 2 weeks anyway. Our sitter said he could do that, but asked about getting paid. I said, I'll pay you for whatever hours you worked. He said that if I paid him in cash instead of a check, then he'd do the overnight thing for an extra $150 cash. I agreed. I returned to town at 3 a.m. and picked up my son at 4 a.m. I texted my ex about the sitter. I saw her at our son's swim meet, and she admitted to drinking too much at her office party and apologized to our sitter. She asked me for the $150 for the summer camp reimbursement. I said I applied it to pay for the sitter for taking Ryan overnight since you couldn't do it yourself. She said that wasn't fair, and we're not squared. I said, actually, we are. We both paid the same amount for childcare and camp. That was the agreement. She said that I promised to reimburse her, and it was my decision to have the sitter take Ryan overnight, and it's my responsibility to his sitter. I told her to kick rocks. Man, she dares to still ask for $150 when she came home wasted to the point that the sitter felt uncomfortable leaving? I would be mortified if I were her and not even dream of asking you for that money. She's clearly not thinking about this rationally and just wants money. You split costs evenly, paying for the emergency sitter, being that she was darn inebriated to the point of not being able to responsibly watch the kid means you guys are settled up. She should be very happy that you could come up with a solution. The sitter could have called CPS and had your son put in emergency temporary care. Based on this event, you could also go for full custody. $150 is small compared to what the cost could have been. Honestly, if she felt what she did was okay, what else does she think is okay to do when she has your son? No joke. That sitter is a gem. They deserve an extra cash bonus on top of the $150. OP, you don't owe her a cent, and thank your sitter profusely for how well he looks after your son. In my opinion, $150 is cheap for what he did to cover her butt when in a bind. The irresponsibility is ridiculous, but the request for money is downright thievery.